welcome to our first excursion into the world of minor keys. So first, let's be clear exactly what we mean by music in a minor key. You'll recall that we've said that music is said to be in a given major key if it's based on the notes of the corresponding major scale. So you might guess that music is said to be in a minor key if it's based on the notes of a minor scale. And this is in fact the case. So what are the notes of the minor scale? Well, it turns out there's actually more than one type of minor scale. For the moment we're going to be concentrating on what's known as the natural minor scale. The others we will encounter in due course, don't worry about them for now, just keep in mind that at the moment we're talking about a natural minor scale. Now, for every major key there is a corresponding minor key which contains exactly the same notes in exactly the same order, but starting and finishing at a different point. So how does this work? Well, let's take as an example our familiar scale of C major. That's the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and back to C, no sharps or flats in it, and play this same set of notes, but this time starting on the note A. We can choose this A here, and we can then play A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and back to A. And this forms the natural minor scale of A minor. So we say that A minor is the relative minor key of C major, and C major is the relative major key of A minor. That's to say, they contain all the same notes. Another way of expressing this is to say that they share a key signature. Key signature simply means the set of sharpened or flattened notes in the scale. In this case, of course, it's none, but if we look at another key, say the scale of G major, here we have the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. We play this set of notes starting on the note E, we get E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and back to E. So we can say that E minor is the relative minor key of G major, G major is the relative major key of E minor, and they share the key signature of one sharp, namely the F sharp. We can generalise from this and say for any given major scale, if we begin the scale on the sixth note of the major scale, we get the relative minor scale. If we take any minor scale and start the scale on the third note of the scale, we get the relative major scale. We can verify this in our key of C and go 6 notes up from C, C, D, E, F, G, A, and A is the tonic of our relative minor. From the A we can go up 3, A, B, C, and C becomes the tonic note of the relative major scale. Okay, so now we have two keys which contain exactly the same notes, so how are we going to know what key we're playing in? Well, it's not always completely obvious, but there are some good clues, and a good place to start looking is at beginnings and endings. It's fairly normal for a piece of music to start with the tonic chord, so if you have a piece of music that begins on a chord of C major, that's a fairly strong hint that the piece is going to be in the key of C major. If it starts with an A minor, well then it's quite likely that you're looking at a piece in the key of A minor. And the other place to look is our old friends, the cadences. You'll recall that we've discussed 3 types of cadences so far: the perfect cadence, or the 5-1 chord progression, the plagal cadence, or the 4-1 progression, and the imperfect cadence, which ends on chord 5 often preceded by chord 1 or chord 2. So you can look through the music and see how the phrases and how the piece as a whole ends. If you find cadences that fit in the key of C major and there are no sharps or flats in the piece, then again that's a strong indication that the piece as a whole is going to be in the key of C major. If you find A minor cadences in it, then once again put your money on it being a piece in the key of A minor. Okay, so now let's explore the intervals of the natural minor scale. And we'll begin with perhaps the most important, the third. And we can see that this note is a tone and a semitone, that is 1.5 tones from the tonic. You'll recall from our building of minor chords that this therefore makes a minor third. And we said that in the case of chords it's the third that defines the character of the chord as major or minor, and as with chords so with scales. So a minor third makes a minor scale. When we do eventually meet the variations of the minor scale, we'll find that the one thing they all have in common is this minor third. Okay, let's go up the scale from there to the sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Compare this with the sixth note of the A major scale. And we'll see that this sixth note is 1 semitone less than the major sixth. We said that any major interval reduced by 1 semitone becomes a minor interval, so here we have A minor sixth. We'll find the same thing with the seventh. If we go up the natural minor scale 7, get to this note here, compare that with the major seventh, and we can see that here again we have a minor interval, a minor seventh. So far we have a minor third, a minor sixth, and a minor seventh. Okay, now let's take a look at the fifth, and you'll see that this is the same interval as the fifth of the major scale. Again, going back to our chord construction, you'll remember that we called the fifth a perfect interval, being neither major nor minor. It's the same in both major and minor triads, and once again, as for chords so for scales, the fifth is the same in both the major and the natural minor scales. The other perfect intervals of the scale are, unsurprisingly, the octave, and finally the fourth. So all we're left with now is the second, and this is where it gets a bit messy, because you can see that the second is 1 whole tone from the tonic. This is the same as the interval to the second in the major scale, so you might reasonably expect this to be another perfect interval. Unfortunately it isn't. For some reason the interval of a tone is always called a major second. I've yet to hear a convincing explanation of why this should be. If you happen to know, perhaps you could let me know. In the meantime, we just have to grit our teeth and accept that our minor scale contains a major second. So now we have the complete structure of the natural minor scale, that is a major second, minor third, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, a minor sixth, a minor seventh, and a perfect octave. So tonic, major second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, minor sixth, minor seventh, octave. So there you have it. We're now in a position to start looking at our common chord progressions in minor keys, and in our next video we're going to start to do just that with the 1-4-5 progression in minor keys, paying particular attention to the 5 chord, which it turns out is rather a special case in minor keys. So until then, thank you again for watching and goodbye.